Hey everybody, welcome to week 2. Although it feels like kind of like week 8 with so much going on. We were really spoiled tonight to just an amazing night of Southeast Texas high school football. You know, it's some weeks it's really tough, and you drive through rain, and then you get there and you're hungry and you're thirsty and your stats end up going completely haywire. But tonight was like one of those nights that just makes it all completely worth it. Just awesome games across the board. Real quick, I was at Central Port Arthur Memorial. Memorial pulled out a 3-point win. David, where were you?
I was at I was over at Dan Hook Stadium for West Orange Stark's comeback 33-27 victory over PNG in overtime.
And I was at the part 2 of the Beaumont Bowl, Westbrook Ozan. Westbrook, for the second year in a row, capped off with a 42-21 victory over Ozan, and they roll in next week undefeated for the second year in a row.
So real quick, just to kind of break down some of the scores that we had tonight, excluding the ones we just mentioned, Dayton 41, Nederland 22, Jasper 35, Vider 21, Newton 45, Bridge City 14, Barbers Hill 29, LCM 14, Shepherd 38, Kuntz 18, East Chambers 31, Tarkington 7, Hardin Jefferson 44, Kelly Donut Hole, Gold Spring 32, Silsby 7, Buna 42, Center 32, Kirbyville 42, Orangefield 27, HF 39, Anahuac, Nada, Deweyville 25, Warren 16, Woodville 32, oh man, Joaquin, Phoenix 14. So those are kind of some of the main ones that happened tonight. But real quick, getting back to the games that we were actually at, usually I try to keep this video to like 10 minutes, but honestly, I don't even care. I don't. We can make this thing go to like 15 because there's so much to get to, so much to talk about. Real quick, Port Arthur Memorial Central, here's the skinny. It was 3-0 heading into the fourth quarter. It was kind of like an exciting 3-0, but 3-0 nonetheless. And then at Team Cam Martin happened, and he scored 14 points for the Titans on a 14-yard run towards the first half of the fourth quarter. Then he breaks off a 41-yard touchdown. For Central, I mean, tons of fight in those guys. Tons of fight. They also score 14 points in the fourth quarter, and it was kind of like alternating. It was Cam touchdown. Michael Jaquette comes back with a touchdown of his own. Cam scores the 41-yard scamper. Jaquette comes back with a 4-yard touchdown pass. It was one of those deals where Central could have like rolled over. And especially in light that they had 2 key injuries early on. P.J. Locke was out of the game after the second play. He was injured, never returned. Toby Foreman said he had to play some of his offensive players on defense. So it was like one of these deals where they really throughout the game were fighting a lot. But again, it's non-district. It's Port Arthur Memorial, which in my opinion is playing better than anybody in the area right now. It's definitely not what you would call a bad loss. Yes, they're 0-2, but honestly, when it comes time for district, if Jaquette can play the way he played in the fourth quarter, which is composed, which is knowing when to tuck it and run, knowing when to throw it, if he can play that way throughout district, I think they're going to be just fine. Real quick, some numbers. Cam ends up with 129 yards on 16 carries with 2 touchdowns. And Devois Whaley, I don't know if he was limited by injury or what, but he only is in for 5 carries, 29 yards. Jaquette ends up with 69 yards on 12 carries. The Central offense really had trouble kind of getting it started towards the end, or until the end. I think part of that was just because they needed that nice balance of pass and run, and really the pass was not that effective for them, so it was kind of like more predictable play calling from that standpoint. But honestly, just an awesome game. Maybe if I start remembering more of it, I'll come back to it later. But just real quick, David or Kendrick, whoever wants to go first.
Well, first off, keep your head up, Coach Foreman. The tough schedule for Central fans, keep your head up. You might be 0-2, but the talent you're seeing right now playing these 6A teams will get you better for the PNGs and the Netherlands that you got to be in district. And from what I saw last week, yes, Jaquette's an emotional player, But it just takes one play for them to make you say, wow, and turn the game around. As you probably saw tonight.
He got better as the game went on. There were a few throws, like kind of in the second, third quarter, where it was an off-target throw. Like he's capable of doing better, and he did do better, in the fourth quarter. So for either of you, just give a quick summary of what David. I mean, your quick summary would probably last like a half hour.
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves, plus one with the overtime period. PNG came out in the first half and looked dominant. Adam Morse, our week 1 player of the week, looked like he was on the way to possibly.
He was Morrison.
Yeah, he was possibly on the way to being the week 2 player of the week. He was just getting the ball to whoever he wanted to, passing it. Jack Giblin in the first half had 8 catches for 129 yards.
Super gold wide receiver. I'm calling it right now.
But yeah, he looked good. But one of the biggest things that probably the game changer was quarterback Jack Dallas getting hurt early in the first quarter for West Orange. I mean, that's the third quarterback that they've lost to either transfer, discipline, or injury in the last 8 weeks, I would say.
That's the trifecta.
Yeah, so what they ended up doing is they put wide receiver Will Johnson at quarterback. He had a little bit of experience at quarterback from what I've heard, but he's been mostly at wide receiver and defensive back. They put him in. PNG couldn't stop him when they ran like quarterback sweeps and everything. They just didn't have the speed to contain him a lot of the game, or at least when they needed to. And it helped Grant LaPointe T, a small running back. But
what's that name?
Grant LaPointe T.
What's up with the hyphen names out there?
I'm not sure.
West Orange.
But
that's some GLT.
But
GGL.
He ended up with 168 yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 carries.
It's a good day,
including the game winner in overtime. Honestly, their run game. I want to say West Orange ended up running for about 260 yards, maybe a little more. So they just did what they had to. A great coaching adjustment was putting Deontay Thompson on Jack Giblin in the second half. He didn't catch a ball. It forced Morse to forced Morse to go to different receivers, and they also put more pressure on Morse, who has some mobility, but not as
he's more comfortable as a pocket passer.
He likes being in the pocket more. So yeah, that just it hurt, and PNG just kind of got worn down in the running game in the second half. Hurt. Deontay Thompson had a touchdown in the second half receiving, had the touchdown in overtime to seal it. Both teams.
Was it an interception for a touchdown or just an interception?
The interception was in overtime. He just kind of kneeled on it.
Okay.
So just big plays from him. PNG,
it's like an average day at the office.
Yeah. Tough loss for the Indians. I mean, you never want to lose, especially, letting another team come from behind. But they'll take it. They'll get better. They have Tyler Chapel Hill next week in Lufkin. For West Orange, it just shows that, WASP does what WASP does. They continue to win. The defense, it wasn't the greatest the entire game, but they did what they had to when they had to. Their schedule doesn't get any easier from here. No. So they go up to Jasper. Going to be a talent versus talent game.
Newton.
Yeah, Newton, Richmond, Foster. Just a lot of tough teams on the schedule. But great game, great win for West Orange.
Mine's not much drama as y'all two. The outcome was predetermined, as it seemed.
You wore a neutral blue, because that's for Roseanne and Westbrook. So.
Hey, I'm right down the middle, 50-50.
Yeah.
Well, we had a little everything. Game got delayed by 30 minutes because of lightning strike, so that was already got us off to a peculiar field. And then Westbrook scores in the first drive, which takes, in reality, 10 plays, but it goes down to 6 plays because they had not 1, not 2, but 3 penalties, including the personal foul and the extra point. Hadn't seen that in a while.
How many penalties?
3, 4 if you count the extra point.
Total.
They had 10 in the first quarter.
Wow.
Jesus.
Coach Flanagan, despite being up by 28-0, is the most unhappy I've seen a coach ever be up 28-0. They had 14 or 13 at the half, and they were up 28-0.
It's enough yellow fabric to make a shirt.
But on the positive side, Justin Essex looks like a second-year starter. He went 29 for 33, threw for 364, 4 touchdowns. Could have been 5. He kind of got greedy, he admitted, right before halftime and threw a pick, but it didn't affect the outcome of the game. And he ended the game with an exclamation point, kind of like do you remember Johnny Football when he did his pro day? It was almost a similar play, except for still Mike Evans. It was Keith Corbin on the end, 75 yards to put an exclamation point and put the game away. Unfortunately for Ozan, they were just undermatched, and they lost 4 players to injury. One of them, I forgot his name. Hopefully he's all right. He had to get carted off with a neck injury. We'll try to keep up to date on that. And they had another 2 or 3 players they got wheeled off on stretchers and stuff, so it wasn't good for the Panthers tonight. But they kept fighting. They, after going, I guess, 6+ quarters without scoring, they scored 3 touchdowns on the last quarter and a half, so they have something to build on. With Josh Boyd had a lot of missed passes, but he definitely can see he made more strides than he did in the Memorial game. And Tyler, Little C, what's the Little C's name? Calvin Tyler. He has some potential. The man that they call Little C has a big heart, and he scored the first touchdown of the season. If you get him outside in space, he can make some things happen. So hopefully Coach Suggs and them can keep their head up and have something to build on going next week.
No relation to Pimp C, or at least I just assume. And we do like to talk about kind of in the short term, like, what it means, but, in the long term as well, like big picture, kind of what does all this mean? I think that's something that's important to touch on real quick. And with Westbrook, I mean, you can only win the games you play, and they have to play the Beaumont Bowl every year, what have you. I just think it's just, for a matter of perspective, they look really good right now. Don't get me wrong, Central's a great football team. I mean, they also went 2-0 to begin this season last year, and they missed the playoffs.
But here's the difference, though. They have that sting, you want to call it, for being on the outside looking in the playoffs. I think that's what's going to push them through because they have a bunch of talent.
I think they will eventually make the playoffs, but it's just like one of those things where you can't become complacent. Like, you can't just say like,
Coach Flanagan was very very disappointed that they, for the second week in a row, they didn't finish strong. And that's going to be a key factor because if you're playing at Port Arthur Memorial or North Shore, you get 20-something penalties, you're not going to win by 20 points.
I think it says a lot about Central that they played Port Arthur Memorial, who beat Ozan by like 50 points or whatever it was last week, and they only lost by 3, and it was in the fourth quarter. And I mean, like a loss is loss, it's going to count for 0-2, but honestly, like I think that's a really good like test for a lot of different things for Central, and I think for them to limit Memorial to 17 points, 17 points for Memorial, which, I thought the game was going to be a lot higher scoring. Corey Dauphine ends up with 72 yards on 20 carries. So, it's not, so they limited him in some respect. They just got really worn down towards the end. David, again, just big picture, what do you think some of this means?
Another quick thing for Central. You took on the 2 6A teams in the area and you lost by a combined 9 points, like Avi said.
It's like the opposite of Westbrook.
Yeah, it's still 2 losses, but you'll be, you got to look ahead, and I think there is some good to take from it. But from what I saw tonight, I do think I don't know how good Nederland's going to be. It's they're 0-2. We don't know, but I think the district is going to. I think the district's going to come down to Central and PNG. PNG, they lost to a 4A team. West Orange Stark is no average 4A team. They are on a notch above. I think
second in the state.
I would put them. I'd put them as one, regardless of class, probably the second team in the area, next to behind Port Arthur Memorial. But West Orange.
What do you think with them at HJ? That's going to be for the district title Halloween night.
Yeah,
that's going to be a good game.
It's going to be a very good one. Can't wait to see that one. But that's West Orange is good. PNG got things to work on, but it's still early, and I think they'll be really good as well.
And 2 quick points. One, how about HF?
Absolutely.
Anawak's not,
Shout out Kendrick King, 2 weeks in a row, 200 yards.
They won last week.
He's not the bell of the ball. Anawak's not the bell of the ball, but honestly, they wiped them out 39-0. They're 2-0. Heading into the Rice Bowl against a very good East Chambers team. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if that's our game of the week next week. And then the second point I just want to make real quick, I think West Orange Stark and Port Neches Groves, that game embodies everything you want in non-district. Like, we can talk about how non-district play, doesn't count towards playoffs, is glorified. I love that West Orange Stark and PNG will never play each other again in district. Most likely, they'll just never be in the same district, at least for a very, very long time, for a variety of factors. But it's like become a rivalry. It's become like a tradition for these two teams to play each other, and it's the fact that PNG's bigger and they're a great team, and West Orange Stark is smaller and they're a great team. And it's one of these scenarios where sometimes you wonder, it's like, oh, what would happen if we put like West Orange Stark against Port Neches Groves? Like, who do you think would win that game? And sure enough, it answers in a fantastic matchup. Like, again, just a great game. It was a great game last year, continues to be one this year, and it's like that's the thing that's the type of thing you'd like to see. Not these blowouts, just ridiculousnevous, but these type of games. Just real quick, the weird thing to me with Dayton and Nederland was that Channelview puts up like over 60 points against Dayton last week. So I'm thinking like, oh, okay, and then Nederland loses 41-22. So definitely, some things to work on in Mid-County. They'll be ready for district. Guys, any closing thoughts? Any games you're looking forward to next week? Real quick.
Next week, I'll be out there in Hart Jefferson to see if they can just keep things rolling. They play Koontz, who took one on the chin, and see how Coach Juber has the Koontz Lions in their second game since they had a week one off. And I'm looking to see what Westbrook does against a 6A opponent next week. They play Spring to Caney and see how they match up. Mm-hmm. The Marcus Smith, he only had 112, but he had 103 in the first half, and he's kind of making people let's forget about Justin Hervey posing a question about the run game. I think they need to answer some questions on defense and see if we can get a killer instinct, because you can't be blowing leads and messing around the second half. That's not going to get you beat.
Yeah, I believe I'll be at the Rice Bowl. It's going to be a good one, I think. I mean, Kendrick King and HF against a traditionally good East Chambers squad. Can't wait for that one. Honestly, the game, if there was another game I could be at, it would be the between Port Arthur Memorial.
You took mine.
and Houston Lamar. I won't say much about it. I'll let you kind of expand.
No, go ahead.
But no, that one, I mean.
Is PNG Chapel Hill next?
PNG Chapel Hill.
All right, that'll be a good game.
So,
I'll take that one.
Memorial, I mean, they've taken care of it. They really took care of business against Ozan.
A couple times.
And they, had to hang on a little bit against Central, but they won. This is going to be by far up to date, up to now, their biggest test of the season. A good Houston Lamar, one of the best teams in the Houston area, probably in all of Region 3 for 6A. So
what if they played Lamar? Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it's gonna be a very, very good game. Won't be there, but I will be keeping my eye on that one. So PA. All right, guys, I got nothing. I'll see y'all next week.